5:10, it's the Kevin Kollins Show on 1340 WJOL. Confirmed on the program at 5:40. Congressman Dan Lipinski will be on to talk about canal days and trains possibly going a little too fast through there. That's coming up here. Right now, though, what you need to know on the day, some of the big stories, some of the fun stories, just a little bit of everything. We throw it in here at 5:10 to get you up to speed. Evan, what do we need to know?
The attorney for former U.S. House Speaker Dennis Hastert lashed out in court today over leaks of the sensational case, calling allegations in the media of sexual abuse in Hastert's past unconscionable, and said it could jeopardize a fair trial. Speaking via telephone conference at a status hearing, Washington-based attorney Thomas Green said he may ask U.S. District Judge Thomas Durkin to order an investigation into the origin of the leaks from an unnamed law enforcement source. Assistant U.S. Attorney Stephen Block said his office is taking the appropriate measures to investigate the leaks. Hastert, 73, is accused of agreeing to make $3.5 million in hush money payments to cover up wrongdoing from decades ago against an acquaintance during his time as a high school teacher and wrestling coach in Yorkville. According to the charges, Hastert lied about the reasons for his withdrawal of $952,000 in cash. Over the previous 2.5 years, when the FBI questioned him in December, the alleged victim is identified in the charges only as Individual A, though the indictment only hints at the wrongdoing. Federal law enforcement sources have told the Chicago Tribune that Hastert was paying to cover up sexual abuse of a Yorkville high school student. The FBI also interviewed a second person who raised similar allegations against Hastert.
You know, the biggest thing that got him in trouble here, well, I shouldn't say the biggest one. The thing that got him caught was the lies. And I'm going to take this in a completely different area. I can't figure out why. You can lie to the local police, to the sheriff's department, to the state police, but you can't lie to the federal police. I wonder why that is. I mean, obviously it's a federal law, but I wonder why they got that through, yet the states and you know don't put the law through to make it illegal to lie to police on a local level. But, you know, Dennis Hastert, I'm curious. I've been back and forth on whether I think he's going to do a plea deal on this. A plea deal would save him from any more digging around through disclosures on people possibly finding out who this person is and more details on it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but things continue to move along, and this is going to be something that's going to be in the news for a long time to come.
The FBI is looking into whether a federal hate crime was committed in the massacre at a church in South Carolina last night. FBI Special Agent in charge, John Strong, said there is not a lot he can reveal right now about the investigation.
The most important point is this subject is now in custody. The immediate threat to the community no longer exists, and we'll let the legal process run its course.
A 21-year-old is the suspect in the deaths of 9 people at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston. He was captured in Shelby, North Carolina during a traffic stop. Shelby Police Chief Jeffrey Ledford said it took less than 20 minutes for his officers to make an arrest from the time they received a tip about a possible suspect sighting.
I mean, assuming that the statement that has been reported that one of the witnesses, one of the survivors from the shooting made, he basically said that this man referred to, you know, you people rape our women. And, you know, I would assume that is referring to you people referring to what race they are. And I think this is going to be a pretty slam dunk case that this is a hate crime, racially motivated, plus, you know, some of the photos of some of the things and what he said in the past. I think it's going to be pretty much a slam dunk as a hate crime.
Do we want to talk about mental health again? Do people want to hear my rants about this? Every time one of these things happen, I get on my podium and I start screaming about mental health, and you know, I get the phone calls in here. We get it, mental health. Yeah, we need to talk about it. But isn't this really about the fact he had a gun? No, it's about the fact a crazy person had a gun. I really thought,
his
Kevin,
dad gave it to him.
I really thought, and I'm going to be brutally honest about this. When Sandy Hook happened in 2012, 26 people were killed by someone who was mentally ill, severely mentally ill, and didn't receive the funding or didn't receive the care necessary. I said, this is what it's going to take. It took something like this for us to finally start paying attention to something that I believe is an epidemic within our country, which is mentally ill people not receiving the care necessary. And we just moved right on. We just kept on going. We didn't talk about it. We didn't look at it. It comes up every now and then. A big news source will do a story on it. Kevin, since 2009, $4.5 billion has been cut from state funding for mental health patients. We've lost almost 4,000 beds across this country for people with mental illness. In the 1980s, we started closing mental health facilities left, right, and center, and decided we'll just send these people to prison instead, which further exacerbates the situation, because most of the crimes that these mentally ill individuals commit are nonviolent crimes. And they would qualify for treatment in a mental health facility, but instead they're sent to prison. And the surveys have shown over the last 30 years, it only turns them into criminals, and a habitual pattern of abuse then follows their initial prison sentence. When are we going to talk about this?
Now, with this guy, though, is there any evidence out there that he had a mental history?
If you walk into a church,
well, I know,
and shoot nine people, you're mentally ill.
But the issue, though, I don't disagree with that. The issue is, would a mental health law have helped in this situation if he didn't have any prior history? And I've said that about the concealed carry law here in Illinois. They say that there's a mental health aspect to it. Yeah, the mental health aspect is they ask you during the application if you have any mental health issues. Well, of course, you're just going to lie, and there's no way for them to verify it unless it's come up in court in the past.
The president said this doesn't happen in other Western countries. And it's true, it doesn't happen for the most part.
Frequently,
we had the massacre in Norway. We had the Charlie Hebdo killings in France. And he insinuated that this was because most people who are mentally ill can't get their hands on guns. I would take it one step further and say most Western nations do a better job than we do of taking care of their mentally ill.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why. We're actually having a debate in the state about whether or not we're going to cut $87 million from the Department of Human Services for mental health funding. Really? We're going to cut further? We're going to grow the epidemic even more?
Well, it is something that we talk about a lot here on the show, and they have to address this mental health issue, and until they do, we're going to continue to see horrific incidents like this that we saw last night.
What's it going to take for us to call it a crisis? What's it going to take?
Lobbyists to go away.
And now to the story many of you are talking about tonight, and one that for us not only hits close to home, but in our home. Brian Williams, anchor and managing editor of Nightly News, has been suspended by NBC management for 6 months without pay. In a statement, NBC Universal CEO Steve Burke said by his actions, Brian has jeopardized the trust millions of Americans place in NBC News. But he added, Brian deserves a second chance, and we are rooting for him.
Said Lester Holt as he jumped up and down and said, I got a new job. I got a new job.
Brian Williams is out as the anchor of the NBC Nightly News. When his 6-month suspension ends in August, he'll head to MSNBC, otherwise known as the dumpster fire of cable news. As the breaking news and special reports anchor, Lester Holt will take over his Nightly News anchor chair. Williams was suspended after a series of fibs, including that he had been aboard a helicopter that took fire in Iraq. In a statement, Williams apologized for saying things that weren't true and said he'll miss working with the Nightly News team. Now, this also comes on the heels of the Today Show was getting ready to tomorrow morning air an interview with Brian Williams in which he would not only address his fibs, he would also talk about the move to MSNBC. It is believed now, though, that the Today Show will postpone that interview and will move it to sometime next week due to the tragic shooting in Charleston, South Carolina.
I'm going to go on a limb here and guess that Brian Williams will have a new title. Possibly that title and that record would be the highest paid news person on cable television.
Oh, I think he would be. What's Bill O'Reilly's the highest paid one?
Brian Williams, right? Yeah.
What's Bill O'Reilly make? Let me look up.
I mean, Brian Williams has to be. I certainly hope Brian Williams is much higher paid than Bill O'Reilly. And I'm not counting what's his name from the Daily Show.
Jon Stewart.
Yeah, because isn't he the highest paid guy on cable television? But it's not cable news though. It's not a news program.
It doesn't.
Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, I would be shocked if Bill O'Reilly makes more than Brian Williams.
I don't know. Bill makes quite a bit.
He's got all those book deals.
Bill makes quite a bit. Yeah, I mean that's it. He also has book deals, and he has a very successful stage tour. He apparently does with Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller does 45 minutes of stand up, and O'Reilly does 45 minutes of public speaking, and then they take questions from the audience for another 45 minutes.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of his Lies and Legends show that they got at Fox. It's a great show.
It is a really good show. I'm not done.
Oh, go. What? I'm sorry. We got more. What do you got? Well,
I tried to wait.
Oh, yeah, I was spacing off here. What do we got?
You don't. We have, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Kevin, the lowest grossing film in U.S. box office history. United Passions. The film starring Tim Roth as FIFA president Sepp Blatter brought in $918 in its 10 American cinema showings. It cost an estimated $29 million to produce. Most of the movie's funding came from FIFA. To qualify for this title, it has to be screened in a minimum of 10 theaters. Director Frederick Arberton called the movie, quote, a disaster. The movie did quite well in Russia, however, where the 2018 FIFA World Cup will be taking place, where it earned an estimated $158,000. The movie has been pulled from showing additional U.S. theaters. It has a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, of course, the lowest rating you can get. And this comes on the heels now of Sepp Blatter apparently announcing that he may not resign as FIFA president. But this comes further on news, Kevin, that the 2018 World Cup in Russia and the 2022 World Cup in Qatar could be moved if it was turned out bribes were accepted by FIFA officials to award the World Cup to those countries.
Will you be watching that movie when it comes out on Netflix?
No.
522, it's the Kevin Kollins Show on 1340 WJOL. That's what you need to know.